blockchain. Things are about to change. Open up the gates. Systems get replaced. Bitcoin, decentralize the trust. Security, transparency. The network's run by us. Bitcoin.
Welcome to the Bitcoin.com podcast. This is Zach Doty. We have Joshua Scigala with Vaultoro, and we have Gavin Knight here today, and we're here to talk about their Bitcoin gold exchange, Vaultoro.com. Thanks for joining us, Joshua. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks. Thanks very much. It's a pleasure to be here. I really love what Bitcoin.com is doing, not only with the website, but having this great podcast. I had to listen to a few of them over the last couple of weeks, and really good work.
Thank you. Thanks, Josh. So Bitcoin and gold, I think we have there's a lot of similarities between the groups of people that are interested in Bitcoin and gold. I think Bitcoin has been likened to digital gold or gold 2.0. And there's this question now, is gold going to be relevant in the future? But you guys have built probably the world's first Bitcoin gold exchange, and you guys have 100% reserves on both. So tell us a little bit about that and where you think gold fits in. Obviously, gold's really relevant right now with a market cap in the trillions, maybe 7 trillion compared to Bitcoin's market cap around 6 billion. But what does the future look like for Bitcoin versus gold?
Yeah, I mean, gold bugs originally were very anti-Bitcoin. They're like, oh, it's just like fiat, it's monopoly money. I remember saying, yeah, well, I'd rather have monopoly money than a monopoly on money. And that's really what fiat is this monopoly on debt, monopoly on money. And gold has a history of 3,000 plus years. And when you look at something like gold, it's across the board, across the world. It was really the first sort of decentralized money, in terms of issuance. There wasn't one company that was mining this stuff. It was all over the place, and it was global. People in pretty much most countries understood gold as value, and that's not just by accident. It's because the metal has certain properties that align very well with money, and that's scarcity and fungibility and all these things, as well as if you throw some gold in the ocean, it'll just stay there, won't rust and disappear. So there's great points. And when Bitcoin came along, a lot of the gold bugs were like, no. But I'm seeing more and more now that as they start to understand the mathematics, they start to understand not only the mathematics, but the people that don't understand the maths can look at the last 7 years and say, wow, Bitcoin has been said to have died, I don't know, now it's like 50 times or something. And every time it just comes back up like the phoenix. And so they're starting to understand that, okay, it's trustworthy because other people that are a lot smarter than I have looked through the source code, understand it, and it's amazing. Bitcoin has such phenomenal properties that gold doesn't have, but gold has phenomenal properties that Bitcoin doesn't have. So gold is really heavy. It's hard to move around. It's hard to verify easily. Like when I get some gold, I'm not sure, is it tungsten inside or not? But it's got a beautiful history, like I was saying, and of gold. It's deep ingrained in people's DNA as value. It's globally recognized as value, and it's great for central banks in the old school terms, in terms of countries storing a wealth. But it's also fantastic for personal. And you see small towns in India that have got more gold than most of the central banks just in these small towns. It's amazing. But whereas Bitcoin, it's really light compared to gold. It's super light. It's super easy to send, but it really doesn't have a history. It's a history of 7 years. So there's by mixing them together, you have this beautiful history and understanding of value that everyone can say, okay, gold I trust. If I put my money in gold, it's not going to just vaporize in value like a fiat currency is. And if I don't really understand Bitcoin, I understand, okay, yeah, you can send it worldwide, borderless, and without a middleman, but I don't really understand. I understand gold. So by using gold as the store of value and Bitcoin as the sending protocol, we feel that we're getting really close to libertarians' wet dream of money, But also, I really personally believe we're getting very, very close to a good, perfect money.
Yeah, and scarcity is what makes good money, right? A fixed Austrian money supply that's not going to be inflated away through central bank, quantitative easing.
Yeah, definitely. And even if it does get inflated away, like there's some coins, some old coins that are, have got a lot more issuance. But the fact is that if people know beforehand what the issuance is and how much is going to be there, then they can make a choice whether that's a good store of value or not. Whereas if you look at something like paper currency, you don't know, is the next 5 years, are they just going to turn the printing press onto 11 and just pump that stuff out like there's no tomorrow? Or are they going to hold back? No one knows.
Right. And in terms of scarcity comparison, I think, there's approximately 380 ounces of gold for every Bitcoin. And gold's, $1,250 an ounce compared to Bitcoin at 440. So, a big value premium still, gold being valued over 1,000 times more in terms of market cap, over 1,000 times more per unit of scarcity than Bitcoin. So it's interesting to imagine what would happen if even 5 or 10%, even 2 or 3% of the interest shifted from gold as a store of value to Bitcoin as a store of value. I just saw recently a quote from, I think it was the VP of the St. Louis Federal Reserve, that Bitcoin might be the next great safe asset, directly comparing it to gold. Did you see that quote?
Yeah, I did, and it's really telling. It's very, very telling, and I love both because asset-based currencies are, for me, not only a morally better solution as money instead of debt, but also extremely trustworthy in terms of knowing, you working your whole life to pay for your family or to support your family. And the savings that you save, if you're saving in an asset that is controlled by the state, where you really don't know what's going to happen, asset-based money is, especially if it's allocated assets, you know what it is, you know where it is, it's not going to start being manipulated.
So you're sort of building a bridge between the digital world and the physical world. So I wonder how it was talking to banks or various services that you have to use in the physical world, explaining Bitcoin and getting the licenses. And I don't know exactly where you guys are located, but did you find yourself having to describe what Bitcoin is, or did you have to go to multiple locations to get approval? And just kind of curious what those discussions were like.
Yeah, well, we started coding. We launched Vaultoro a year ago, and we were coding and developing the platform for a year before that. It was really tricky at that stage. I mean, 2 years ago, banks had never, most people hadn't heard the word Bitcoin or blockchain even. And going in there, all they'd really heard was Silk Road. And so talking to some of these people there would be like, gold, money laundering, Bitcoin, money laundering. And they basically just blocked us every step of the way. And it's been really, really tricky. But now that Bitcoin and the blockchain is getting better understood, people are going, oh, wow, that's interesting. And you can really see the difference from when we started to now, how people are starting to understand, okay, Bitcoin has a lot more to it than just some fantasy internet money that drug dealers use. And so, yeah, it's a lot, the climate is a lot better nowadays.
How did you actually find that initial bank? How long do you have to search? And, was it just that they were more flexible or a different location?
Well, the thing was that we ended up, just like many Bitcoin companies, what we did to get a bank account was create a second company and not mention Bitcoin and say that's the software company that develops the platform. And they're like, oh, okay. And so, but, that was at the very beginning, just to be able to bootstrap it. And then we, eventually started talking to our banking partners, and Fidor Bank is a really forward-thinking bank here in Europe, and they were really quite helpful.
So you guys have done over $4 million in gold trading on your platform, and you have $1.2 million worth of gold in reserves and a couple $100,000 worth of Bitcoin in reserves.
Yep. Yeah, it was really, really important to us to have that reserve and that transparency. First of all, I got stung by Mt. Gox quite massively. And when I woke up from that, I was just really angry. Not because I had lost money. Of course, that had part of it, definitely. But I love Bitcoin so much. It's just such a revolution. It's such a good invention for humanity. And to see these punks building these exchanges or these online wallets, and then constantly, over and over again, we saw this, just running away with people's coins and not having any transparency, when the protocol itself leans itself to show how transparent an exchange can be. So that's what I wanted to do, was say, right, had enough. And first thing we wanted to do was build a decentralized exchange, but it was building a decentralized exchange is really slow. It's not a very good price discovery mechanism for gold. It's you have to send it to a middleman, and then the middleman, the escrow service, and it takes a while. So we focused instead on building a centralized exchange, but focusing on total transparency and using the blockchain, being able to prove the Bitcoin reserves, but also using the concept of pseudonymous handles for our users also played into it. So what we did was we gave every user an anonymous ID that only they know. And on the audit page, when they log out of the site, we don't know that they're checking because they can be logged out. We publish their anonymous ID and their holdings in gold and Bitcoin. And so they can check at any time, okay, let's check my anonymous ID, my holdings. Okay, they're correct. And then they can see everybody's there as well. We publish everybody's, but no one knows who belongs to what because it's all anonymous, just like the blockchain. And then they can check the sum of everybody's holdings against the cold wallets and against the vault operators' statements, the BDO International auditing statements, and these insurance certificates to make sure that the gold reserves are also on par with the amount that people hold. And so this protocol we called the Glass Books protocol, because if we as users of Bitcoin don't use exchanges that are transparent, if we keep using exchanges that just say, yep, we're 100% reserved, but don't prove it, then they're going to run off with everyone's Bitcoins again and again. And that's when the state will come in and go, we'll save you, and we'll pass draconian laws till there's no tomorrow, and basically destroy the whole startup scene that's being able to bootstrap itself with nothing, because in an unregulated environment, you're allowed to build something that's really cool if you haven't got the resources to buy, to pay for €100,000 a year or €200,000 a year banking license plus paperwork till the eyeballs pop that a small startup cannot deal with. And so what I'm trying to say is if we just if we just put up with dodgy exchanges that are opaque, then we will end up getting too much regulation, and the banks will be rubbing their hands together and thinking, yes, welcome back.
Great. That sounds like great transparency. And, it's the best you can do with gold is be transparent. I think the one amazing thing about Bitcoin that in my mind is the one thing that really sets it apart from gold is that, you can hold your own private keys. And that's the ultimate, that's the ultimate form of, monetary sovereignty that a citizenry can have. But yeah, so transparency is the best you can do, and you guys are warehousing this through which vault?
So the vault operator is called Pro Aurum. They're one of the biggest vault operators in Europe. The vault is located in Switzerland, but we're looking at opening vaulting contracts in Germany and in Singapore, and maybe even Hong Kong. And so people will be able to move their gold instantly. And for the first time, and this is allocated gold, folks. So it's not paper, it's not a receipt, it's not a certificate. It's your physical asset secured in a bailment contract for you. So that's a really important
to take
distinction.
Possession of that?
Yeah, definitely. We were built primarily as a way to instantly jump in and out of a physical asset. So it's not the cheapest way to get it delivered to Cuddle, but it's definitely possible. It's important. I mean, it's your gold, so you should be able to do with it what you want. But these are large, good delivery bars that are sitting in the vault. So there are smelting costs and insurance. And I mean, there's a whole lot of protocols to even get into the vault. You have to call the insurance company. They have to give a window of time that the vault can be opened, and then have security and everything else, and then forming costs and stuff. But, we're looking at different ways actually to deliver physical by making partnerships with other gold vendors around the world. So what would happen is a one-click payout where it would sell the gold that's in the vault and transfer those Bitcoins to a local dealer to then allow you to pick up. Yeah, it's not the exact same gold that's in the vault, but it will be a cheaper method, and we'll have the original method of just grabbing the actual gold that's in the vault and sending it out to you if that's what you want. But the important thing for us was to build a way that you could instantly buy this asset. I mean, for the first time, because Bitcoin is so beautiful like that. We have client in Myanmar or Botswana, these strange little countries where you think, wow, they would have never had the opportunity to secure dollar worth of gold in a professional top tier vaulting facility that only the financial elite had access to in the past. And now they can accept Bitcoin, and if it's too volatile for them, they can jump into an asset that's got a much larger market cap, and it's secured in their name as their property, and then jump back out instantly as well. And that was really important as well, that people can then spend that gold as Bitcoin. We had this one woman sign up, and she was she went to verify herself but didn't upload a banking statement. On Vaultoro, we allow people to buy, without being verified, $5,000 worth of gold a day. That's because the European law states that you're allowed to buy up to 7,500 euros worth of a good without showing IDs and all this stuff. And that's really important, because if every time you went to the supermarket you had to show ID and they had to take a copy, the whole society would melt down, because everyone would have a copy of everyone's IDs and it just wouldn't work. So they have these laws where it's normal to buy a good, and gold is considered a good. And so this is another reason why we wanted to use gold, is because the developing world, who really can use Bitcoin the most, are scared of it because it's so volatile. Yeah, currently it's not. It's quite stable now, but the potential for a whale to come along and just dump on you while you're holding this stuff is quite high. So what we allow is these people in developing countries to accept Bitcoin payments. People that haven't had a chance to accept any payments because A, they don't have a bank, and B, Visa and MasterCard and PayPal don't serve their countries because there's too much fraud. And so now they can accept Bitcoin, instantly convert it to gold, and then spend that gold as Bitcoin down to 4-cent increments.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I think what you've done is you've expanded financial inclusion for the gold, the physical precious metals market, which that is really cool. And that's an angle that I really didn't even see going into this, looking at your product, was without requiring this verification, because it's a commodity that they're buying, and you have that exemption through the European law. You have expanded financial inclusion, and you have given these people in other countries a way to hold crypto backed by something, and in a usable manner. That is great. So
yeah, thank you.
And what would really be cool, and just brainstorming here, would be to expand that into a mobile wallet, right, where you can send and receive, and the whole time it's in that mobile wallet app. The wallet could look and feel just like a Bitcoin wallet, except that
Yep.
it was reserved by you. Do you have a mobile app at this point, or you guys have plans for that?
Yeah, we've definitely got plans. We've been talking to Airbits about incorporating to them, so that'll be interesting.
Oh, great. Would that be something like with BitID, just an auto login like their integration with Glidera?
Yeah, exactly. It'd be exactly like that. As a sort of a one-click boom, and it would generate the API keys through an SSL channel, and then send that across. So it would sign up, generate that API key and the secret key, and then you'd be in, and you can start accepting Bitcoin, and you'll be able to say like 50-50 split as soon as Bitcoin come into this address, or 100%, or whatever you want, gold Bitcoin, sort of a ratio.
Nice. I think we're going to get Airbits on the podcast next. We've been talking to them about it, so that's exciting. So what are your plans next?
Yeah.
I know you're going to be adding the Euro Gold pair. Any other big plans? You guys are doing a raise How's that going?
Yeah, really good. I mean, we've been focusing on building features and things, and every so often we think, okay, let's start raising. But now we have to really start raising some capital. So we're raising 700K. We've got 300 committed, and so if anyone's interested in jumping on this seed round and you're a accredited investor, then you can contact us, Joshua at Vaultoro.com. It's an exciting time. It's being in this fintech space and being able to disrupt such old establishments is just so beautiful. So it's fun to invest in fintech.
Agreed. And what's interesting right now in the gold space is, I think, for the first time in quite a while, I don't know, maybe for the first time in forever, I was just noticing that the 30-day volatility on Bitcoin is actually lower than gold, and that probably won't be true for very long, but it seems like it is. Let's see, BTC vol.info. Right now, Bitcoin's volatility is 0.74, and that's lower than the 30-day volatility for gold. So
it's amazing. That's an amazing statistic, isn't it?
Yeah.
Wow.
But we have a long way to go until the market cap catches up. So 10 years from now, if Bitcoin has 20% of the market cap of gold, it'll be quite valuable, probably 200 times the current price.
Bitcoin, once it gets at a bigger price and more used, a lot of volatility will drop out. And seeing that statistic is fantastic, and it really warms my heart to see that. The problem is that it's very random. It just takes one whale to go bang, and then some news to happen at the same time, like a rage quit from Mike Hearn or something, and it would it can drop down or it can go back up. And so that's what when I talk to people to try to get them on board with Bitcoin, that's the major thing that they say is like, well, I just am too scared to because I have to pay my restockist and stuff. And I'm like, well, I always say to people, well, look, if you receive Bitcoin and keep it as Bitcoin, I don't think you're going to do enough business straight out, because the Bitcoin economy is still very small and niche, that you're going to all of a sudden sell your whole inventory and be stuck with Bitcoin that's going down. But, I think that's solutions like BitPay and stuff really help.
Well, Satoshi was obviously very inspired by gold. He refers to the economic supply as increase as mining, and modeled that after precious metal mining. And right now we're coming up to the next halving in 70 some days. We're going to see the inflation rate get cut in half. I think after the next halving, the inflation rate in Bitcoin, which is currently 8%, will be, after the next one in another 4 years, will be down close to the inflation rate in gold. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out.
Yeah, definitely. I'm really living right now in this time is so exciting. We're seeing, what's exciting for me is being able to see the developing countries grabbing hold of this. I'm talking to a guy in Ghana currently, and he's been working, I don't know if you know him, Philip, over in BTC Ghana, and he's doing a lot of work out, getting people used to the concept of Bitcoin. And it's not the furthest stretch for them, because they have all these mobile money markets through Vodafone and all these other things. But they're all very separated through geographical regions. And Bitcoin is truly global, as we all know. And so being able to teach these people that is really exciting to see them coming on board.
So I wanted to kind of bring it back to trading. I know a lot of what we talk about is buying gold. People don't want to hold gold. But what about, day traders, swing traders? Do you have any ideas about different instruments, leverage or futures, ways that you can kind of entice more people to just get on and speculate? Or do you think maybe the gold price is so stable that doesn't fit within your model?
I really, when we first started Vaultoro, I wanted to build a true asset-based money. I wanted to build a system that wasn't built on derivatives or derived from the price of gold. I wanted physical gold sitting in the vault, physical money, rare numbers and rare metals sitting there. But as we're slowly evolving the platform, we started thinking about ways that people could earn interest from their gold by lending it to other people that wanted to borrow it. So this is just an idea that's been floating around in our heads, and it's slowly getting fleshed out. But what will allow people to do eventually is lend Bitcoin and gold on the platform for an interest rate. So there'll be a market for interest rates, and then borrowers will have to put the amount that they want to borrow up for collateral, and then you can borrow the amount that you've put into the system, locked into the system. You can borrow, and people say, well, why would you want to borrow something that you've already got? And a lot of people say for interest rate arbitrage would be interesting, where you have a mortgage for 6% or whatever it is, a percentage, and you have gold, but you don't want to sell the gold. You want to keep it. What you can do is you can put that gold up for collateral, borrow someone else's gold for an interest rate that's lower than your mortgage, sell the gold, pay off the mortgage, and then pay off the lower interest rate on the gold. The collateral being locked in there is really good, because if the market price moves the wrong way, then there'll be an automatic margin call, and the lender will be paid back with interest and that they're owed and everything, and the loan will be cancelled out. So there's really interesting use cases where people holding gold, because gold really isn't usually an interest-bearing asset, but this way it would allow people to either short sell or leverage or do interest rate arbitrage, but it would also allow savers to earn an interest that they choose through the marketplace.
Do you have any estimate for when those features might be introduced to your platform?
Yeah, by the end of this year, we want to have this stuff happening. Yep.
Yeah, it seems like one interesting comparison between gold and Bitcoin is like the velocity. I think Bitcoin has the potential to be perhaps the world's highest velocity currency, with Lightning Network allowing it to be held for milliseconds before being used in other transactions, right? And compared to gold, which is probably the slowest velocity asset, has the slowest monetary velocity of any asset. It's not traded in daily or weekly, but usually in even larger increments of time. So very interesting platform.
Yeah, I wonder if you have kind of an idea of what the average trade length is. How long do you find that most people will buy gold and hold it for a month and then trade back? Or do you find you said that there are some bots maybe on the platform using your API, so there are some people supplying some liquidity there and maybe scalping. But what do you think kind of the average user, their trading methodology is?
Yeah, well, what we've noticed is that there's three profiles generally for the types of users. One is the savers who just want to buy some gold the cheapest possible way and the fastest way, and Bitcoin allows us to have the cheapest way. Traditionally, if you wanted to buy allocated gold, you'd have to send, generally, especially offshore, an international wire transfer. Then that takes days and fees galore and stuff. Whereas with Bitcoin, it's free, it's instant, it's boom, and there's 0.05% for a fee. So the transfer fee is the network fee, but it's almost free. I just generally say it's free. And then the second type, so that the savers will generally hold for a longer period of time. They'll buy once, and then just every month they'll put a little bit into gold. And then we have miners as well, Bitcoin miners that they mine directly. We have a function called an auto buy function. So we watch the blockchain, and anything goes into a certain address, it'll place an order on the marketplace for gold. And so a lot of miners are using that to send tiny amounts, that they mine, and hedge that volatility, the potential volatility in gold. And then when they need to pay for electricity, they sell the gold. So that's a really interesting use case. And the third one are day traders that are using, they trade commodities and they understand commodities. They're keeping up with all the news, but they also want to take advantage of the volatility of Bitcoin to make a profit. So there's really, it's all over the shop. It's people have all sorts of use cases for why they want to trade Bitcoin and gold.
Yeah, I really think that Mondays is really interesting, and I it's the first time I've heard about it. I wonder, is it mostly just small miners? Do you find any bigger, mining operations like using you to just hedge the volatility so they can pay fixed costs?
I'm not sure, because user privacy is really important. So We don't collect much data on them, but I generally think it's a miner because the coins are so new usually, and they're tiny little trickles coming in, and that's how we know it. But I think we've been in talks with Slushy's pool to integrate properly using our API, so people will have a one-click sign-on and all that stuff. So that's coming as well, which is an interesting use case. So mining physical gold with the CPUs. It's a great headline.
Very interesting, Joshua. This is a cool thing you've built. I really like the financial inclusion angle, and the way that this is kind of exempt from some of the currency exchange rules because you're actually dealing with a commodity. There's some big upside to that.
Yeah, definitely. And in terms of a lot of people have fears of money laundering that $5,000 a day you could launder money and all this stuff, but actually you can't. Money laundering is a circle. You have to have black money. It then you buy something with it, you sell it, you buy something else, and then you eventually get white money out. But with Vaultoro, you come in with Bitcoins, you buy gold, and then you sell the gold and have Bitcoin again. And if the police say, well, where did you get all that Bitcoin? You can't say Vaultoro because you can't put fiat in yet. If you request physical delivery, then we have to go through the KYC AML stuff by law, of course. But because that way you can launder money if you get physical gold delivery, but generally with a trading platform like this, there's not really anything you can do to launder.
Yeah,
but,
and it seems like hedging is really one of the key things you guys offer to everyday users. Similar to what Coinapult was doing with the USD or what Uphold is doing with various currency pairs. They have some gold hedging as well.
They do, but it's not allocated. So
that's what I was going to say, and I don't know if they're insured at this point. I'm not sure that they are. So I like what you guys have with 100% allocated insured.
And the important thing is with places like Uphold or BitGold is they're a single party. They're a single counterparty. So if you have a large holding by them and you decide to then sell, if they decide to change their buyback price to something crappy, you're forced to pay it. Whereas on a market, if we as the market maker decide to make a shitty price, someone will jump ahead of us and make a closer to the spot price because they'll see that there's an opportunity there.
Great distinction.
And that was really important. Yeah.
Very important distinction there. And with yours, you can take possession again. That's the big deal.
Yeah, super important. Yeah, super important. I mean, people, a lot of people have various reasons for buying gold, and some of the heavy gold bugs are that everything's going to collapse and go down on itself and all this stuff. So, being able to deliver physically is super important to them. Whereas a lot of other people, especially in developing countries, they don't want to hold gold at home. And because it's dangerous. It's also dangerous holding gold in developed countries, actually, a large amount of it, because if word gets out, insurance companies do one thing really well, and that's statistics. And if you try to insure gold at home, it's extremely expensive. Whereas if you insure gold in a huge professional top-tier vaulting facility, it's extremely cheap. Why is that? Because insurance companies understand the risks, and these vaults are extraordinary. I mean, even banks are storing gold in the problem safe vaults because their vaults are rated at a higher security than the actual bank vaults. The only bank vault that's rated as a similar level of security is the Bundesbank, which is the central bank here in Germany. So they've got a similar rated vault. So that's why insurance is a lot cheaper holding security in gold in a professional vault.
What do you think about kind of closing the loop? So, people in the third world, they can take the Bitcoin, they can store it in gold, but kind of there's always an issue of getting that Bitcoin back and getting a currency. So do you think gold exchangers are going to start adopting Bitcoin rapidly? Because it seems like every place in the world, will have a gold exchanger. So if Bitcoin and gold become married and those people adopt it, that might actually close the loop and allow you to have seamless system to get people to get money in and out. So
Absolutely.
what do you see kind of as the biggest challenge to closing that loop?
Yeah, I mean, when I first got into Bitcoin, I wanted to exit fiat, and so the problem was when I was using Bitcoin a lot, I had to keep jumping into fiat to either hedge the volatility or to buy things. But that loop is now closing. I mean, and that's one of the reasons as well we started an exchange for gold, is to say, hey, now we can do that with gold. We can stick in an asset-based currency. We don't need to go back to fiat. And seeing that in developing countries also grow out, and I think it's just a matter of time to close that loop. I mean, us in the developed countries are getting pretty close. I mean, I can pretty much live on Bitcoin now. The odd thing that I need to pay, I can meet someone and convert some Bitcoin to euros if I really have to. But there are services all over the place. But I think they're still, in the developed countries, still reliant on the euro, because a lot of these services convert sort of insta-sell to euros. Whereas what you're saying is that if we allow these gold traders to accept Bitcoin, people can stay in an asset-based currency loop, which would be fantastic to see. And I really don't see it being that long. I think once education clicks with people, once people go, aha, it's generally they learn what made that aha moment, what piece of information gave them that aha moment. Okay, now I understand Bitcoin. Now I'm going to use it, and they'll grab that the seed of knowledge and pass that on to their friends. And so I think it'll start accelerating a lot. I think in the next 5 years we'll see a lot more people accepting Bitcoin and keeping it as Bitcoin. I'm already seeing people. I saw a post the other day on Reddit where someone said they've managed to get their supplier to accept Bitcoin. So now the lifetime of the life cycle of a Bitcoin transaction is not only transaction for the good, insta-sell to euro, finished. Now it's buy the good, the person you bought from is restocking and then instant sell. So that's already an extra step. And I think the longer that chain gets, the better.
But yeah, like you said, people don't want to store everything under their mattress, so you might have one of these people that relies on gold and they keep buying gold on your platform. Then they can sort of trickle out and buy $5 to whatever amounts they need, rather than having a huge safe under their bed.
Yeah, definitely. That's I personally also use my servers, funnily enough, and what I do sometimes is I'll have some gold, and if I need to buy something on Purse, I'll sell the gold for Bitcoin and buy the thing instantly, sort of move that. So I'll be buying something with gold effectively and using the Bitcoin as the transfer protocol. It kind of reminds me of actually when I was a kid and I used to call Germany. I used to call my father over in Germany, and it would physically attach through all the phone companies around the world, and you'd have this echo, hello, hello, hello. It would seem really distant, and it would cost an arm and a leg every minute that you're on the call. And until someone figured out, hey, this voice over IP thing, what if I make a local call, transfer it to IP, send that over the internet to Germany, and then make another local call? That means we're only paying for 2 local calls, and people can talk forever because local calls aren't timed, and the call quality was much better. So all of a sudden thousands of people jumped in on that. The technology was very, very technical, but it was hidden by good interfaces and user experiences. So people jumped on board, and I see Bitcoin and gold being the same thing, where people can have gold, jump out of Bitcoin, send the Bitcoin across the world, and receive gold again on the other side. And so it cuts out a lot of these complexities, and that's how I see Bitcoin. Also with fiat, I mean, it doesn't have to be gold; it could be fiat as well. So people will jump in and out of Bitcoin and not necessarily hold as a store of value. But some people like myself, I hold as a store of value as well. I'm very, very bullish on both Bitcoin and gold.
Actually, I had one more point. So, I mean, it's easy to get a bank account, right? I mean, anyone can get a bank account, but it's really hard to get a gold account in a lot of places, right? So basically what you're offering is a gold savings account service.
Yeah. Yep. Definitely. It's we're also in talks with forward-thinking banks. Not in talks. We're developing relationships to allow people in the future to be able to have a gold savings account, euro savings account, Bitcoin savings account, and diversify across those. One debt-based asset and the other two asset-based assets.
Well, Joshua, I really think you have a great platform, and I love the financial inclusion. That's what stands out to me. I like the fact that you're
Thank
talking
you.
to Airbits about integration with their app. I think that would be awesome to see. And I think what you're doing is going to be very useful for those in developing countries. Like Gavin said, you guys are the easiest gold account for people to get. So that's awesome. Thanks for coming on the podcast. We'll have to have you on the podcast again soon. And good luck with your raise. For anyone who's listening, they're raising 700,000, and they're halfway through that. So if you want to be a part of what they're doing, contact Joshua. So
Yeah, thank you very, very much, Zach and Gavin, and keep up the great work. Education is, I think, one of the most important things at this stage of the game. Teaching people about this technology and how it emancipates. It could potentially emancipate millions and millions of people around the world financially.
awesome. Thanks again, and yeah, keep up the good work. We'll talk to you guys soon.
All right, cheers. Thanks, guys.
Again, this is the Bitcoin.com podcast. Go to bitcoin.com/podcast for more episodes.
Blockchain. Things are about